All right, folks, we are going live to Facebook Live with Mr. Bobby Collins. I will introduce him in a moment, but you know the drill here. There's a lot of technology involved. So Maureen Langan now, because there's a delay on Facebook, will be going to my timeline, and we will then be sharing it to the group Hanging with Langan. That's my group page. You get it all both places, Monday through Friday, 3 o'clock Eastern time, right here on Hanging with Langan. You know, it always pops up a little later, which just makes me insane, but this is how it goes. A little bit of business first, you guys, before I bring on Bobby. Things are a nightmare out there, and performers are going to be the last ones to get back to work. Again, that is minor in terms of people who are sick, so we get that. And for years, I was a journalist, and then I became a stand-up comic. So I like doing a talk show where I combine both, because I really like knowing more about my friends, the comedians behind the humor. Who are they? What makes them tick? How they got into the business. So I have been so fortunate that people have been joining me every day here, Monday through Friday, to share with me, you know, what's going on in their world and how they are and where they come from and all that. The only thing that kind of sort of sucks is that what we're gonna do here is it's not, for some reason, going live for you guys. So we're just gonna stop that again. Here we go, that's why. All right, you guys, let's see if we're going live here. Thank God I have patient people in my world. Let me see if we can go live now. Bobby, you bear with me. This is what we deal with every day. I could work in Silicon Valley. All right, it worked right before you came on. This is just the connection between Zoom. We're not live yet. Between Zoom and, you don't mind being patient with me a moment, do you?
I'm with you, darling. Who's that? Hallie? Esmeralda?
All right, let's see if this will work this time for us.
Oh, how was the pool?
Good. She did not want to get up.
I know. She was a bitch to get out, right?
I was like,
I know. You could have called me. I would have jumped. But you had fun. Pull.
okay.
But close the door. I'm doing a
Is that the one I met at, Hallie's the one I met at WABC when you came on with me, right?
Who's that? Maddie.
Your daughter?
Yes.
She was going off to college.
Oh, no. This is my special needs daughter.
Oh, what's her name again?
Madison.
Aw, Madison.
Maddie.
All right.
We've been hunkered down 6 weeks.
It's insane, Bobby. Sorry, honey.
I know. I miss performing.
Oh, please. I know. You made money at it. I was only dreaming.
Thank
All right.
God the phone's ringing.
Let's see what's, yeah. Hey, Bobby, can you do Maureen's Zoom show? Let's see if this works for us, sweetheart. Well, it says we're on Facebook Live. We probably could have been on the whole time. Who the hell knows? I don't know. Okay, we are good to go. I hope we're good to go. I'm going to watch it here, you guys. Yes. We are live on Facebook, and what I am going to do now is share it to the group page, Hanging with Langan. And you guys, I started to say before, because you guys have watched me daily deal with this technology, and I've come a long way with it. But thank you for supporting the show. I do it Monday through Friday, 3 o'clock Eastern time. And I have been fortunate enough to meet so many great people in this business. And I was a talk show host and a journalist years before comedy. So I love bringing people together. And I like going beyond the superficial. We have a lot of laughs, but we scratch the surface and we get to know people behind the scenes. So you guys have seemed to really be enjoying it. And if you want to support the show, you know I appreciate it, because this is the work now. Here's my commercial. When I do that, that's my commercial. So you can go to PayPal at molangan@gmail.com or Venmo at molangan. And my website, if you want to support, is molangan.com. And here, don't make me hate you. These are my shirts that I sell. They're all the rage. And I want to give a big shout out to Bob Johnson. He owns Bitten by a Zebra. It's a graphic company and a website designer and a fantastic photographer for supporting the show this week. All right, you guys, let's get this party started. I would like to introduce my buddy. I've had the pleasure of working with him many times, Mr. Bobby Collins.
Thank you, Maureen. How are you, darling?
Am I a pain in the ass or what? I mean, you're so sweet to come and join me.
You're good. You're good, sweetie.
We're like, okay, I go, Bobby, I got to deal with all this technology here. All right, so listen, you.
I'm AOL.
Oh, you're on AOL.com.
Oh, I don't know any of that. People call me, Bobby, how come you never bring your phone? How come you, I don't want to get involved. I don't care.
I don't want to get involved.
I
Well,
don't
that's good.
care.
Well, you know, what are we going to do?
I know. It's going to work out. It always does. Remember, laughter is the best medicine, and people need to laugh. And because now they're going into that stage of, come on, we got to open up. It's opening up already. How would you want to open up and die? No, it's not time yet. Just be careful. I was talking to a guy today in Florida. He was telling me, Bob, I'm eating in a restaurant outside. I'm going, then you're a nut. You're a nut.
Well, you know, I do believe it's going to get back, Bobby. It's going to have to get back. But when you listen to like Governor Cuomo in New York saying, hey, we're going to start phasing things in, but performers, entertainers, Broadway, comics, we're going to be the last phased in. And people don't want to be on top of each other. And comedy needs people on top of each other for that collective anger, laughter. I'm like, anger. I'm pissed. Can you tell? True. All right. So I have a lot to ask you. First, let me ask you how you've been dealing with this 6 weeks, the last 6 weeks.
I haven't been home in 6 weeks in 40 years. So I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot about everything from Spanx to picking up coffee. I'm not a coffee guy. She asked me, remember, the wife's Italian, hairy woman. So she asked me to run in and get something from Starbucks. I run in, I go, what did you order? She goes, a latte with 2 pumps. Okay, I went in, $7.60 for coffee. It's cheaper to get a liver transplant. Are you people out of your mind? This is what I'm learning. I'm learning. She's Italian. She knows how to fix things. Maureen, she's the other day, Bobby, hand me the Phillip. Who's Phillip? She goes, Bobby, you don't know shit. It's a screwdriver, Phillips screwdriver. I go, what about Benny the hammer, Susie the nail? I don't know this stuff. I came from New York City. We lived in apartments. We had a superintendent. So well, I'm learning.
You're like my father. He's from the South Bronx. You people with your $5 cup of coffees. What the hell's wrong with you people? They get in your head. They got in your head. They got in your head. You're all paying this kind of money for a cup of coffee. Jesus, I wouldn't spit 25 bucks into that cup. 25 cents into it. I mean, he's like that. But let's talk about that. I want to get into the career stuff, but first I want people to know where you do come from. You and I, we've worked together and we've had these chats off the stage about where you grew up and what your life was like.
I grew up in Queens, the borough of Queens, and poor. We were poor, and my mother was a waitress. My father was a insurance clerk. He traveled, 3 hours, if not more, a day to go to work, come back, go to eat dinner, go to bed, did the same thing to support his family. I was amazed at that. I was like, are you really my father? And
working class, huh?
Yeah, he was working class. We were poor. The only thing I would sit and watch TV as a little boy, I'd lay down and Bobby, go over to the rabbit ears. Go over to move it over for us. Move it over. Yeah, but I want to watch too. Shut up. Move it over. And I remember always looking at them, and they'd be on the couch holding hands, and they'd always watch Ed Sullivan and the Red Skelton Show, or any of the comedians that came on. It was the only time I saw them laugh. And as a little boy, I turned and I looked and I go, I can do that, you know? And that's what started me wondering, this is what I should do.
It's interesting because my dad loved Ed Sullivan. And he would bring me in, watch the reruns, anything. He loved Ann Mira. And I talk about this in my one-person show, Daughter of a Garbage Man. He's like, Mimi, come here, you got to see her. She's Irish Catholic, not Jewish, like every other comedian. I mean, ain't nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying, she's good. It was just so funny because he never saw an Irish Catholic comedian. You didn't, because it was all the Catskills. And then he'd say to me, you're going to go farther because you got the Jew thing. You got to have the Jew thing if you want to get far in life. You got to have moxie. I'm like, what are you talking? I'm 10. I don't know what you're talking about. But there was a real reverence for the performers. And, he's a New York guy. So that's who he saw as the performers. But you grew up, nobody thinks you're Irish, do they? Are you really Irish?
No, everybody thinks I'm Italian.
You don't look Irish at all.
I know. Matter of fact, I'm considered Black Irish because I'm the only one in my family that gets dark. And this is from California, here, living in California. And again, I also live in New York. I wouldn't pass up New York.
You can't pass up New York.
I know.
So you grew up in the Queens. I'm like my mother. I was in the Queens, and I was on the Facebook, and I was on the Facebook. Yes, and I have the lupus, Do you know why I have the lupus? Because you're from the Ireland and you have the fair skin. But anyway, what I wanted to ask you though, you grew up with brothers, or were you the youngest? Where were you in the lineup?
I grew up. I was the youngest. 2 brothers and a sister.
The baby.
I was the youngest one, and I couldn't believe how they couldn't. I would look at I go, why would you do that? You get caught every time. I was the one I was the smarter one.
Oh, you were the sharp one.
I was the sharp one, and I'm still amazed. My father, before he died years ago, he called me over to his deathbed, and he said, Bobby, make sure you keep an eye on them. I go, oh no, don't do that to me. Don't do that.
Leave me out of
this day, I call them every Sunday or every other week just to make sure everybody's okay.
With Bobby Collins, you guys, and if you want to share, start a sharing party, a watch party, they call it. Start the watch party. Share with your friends. Let them know we're having a good time. Of course, you can always, it's a commercial, Bobby. You can always support, this is my commercial break. You can support the show because I'm doing this every day for you, Monday through Friday, bringing great people like Bobby Collins on board. Go to molangan.com. All the information's there. You can go to the PayPal, the Venmo, but at Mo Langan. Well, let me get this straight. What am I doing? molangan@gmail.com is the PayPal, at Mo Langan on Venmo. It's all a pig fuck. Anyway, all right. So you and I have worked together a number of times. I've opened for you in Tarrytown, New York.
Nice theater.
Great theater. I've opened for you in Atlantic City at the Hard Rock Cafe.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, people are just like, Bobby, they're all over you. Lines like 5 miles long to get your DVDs and your books. And I'm like, I'm here, I have a t-shirt. So you have worked with some of the real greats. Let's talk about that. You worked with Frank Sinatra and Cher, Julio Iglesias.
I was lucky. One day I was working at the Catch a Rising Star in New York, the little club up there on 78th Street.
Yeah.
And after I got off the stage, a guy came over to me, older man, well-dressed, handed me his card. And he said, have your agent call me. And I looked at him, I go, my parents? And I laughed, he didn't. And he said, have him call me. And he left. And I called up a guy named Steve Levine at ICM at the time who was interested in me, talking to me, and I liked him. And I said, here, this guy gave me this card. He goes, read the number and who it is. And he goes, do you know who that is? I go, old man. He goes, that's Frank Sinatra and Cher's manager. So we called him up and he said, how would you like to go on an 84-city tour with Cher? And again, this is show business. I said, how much? And it was more money than I've ever made, And I said,
I don't know. No, I don't.
I said, absolutely. And I remember going out with Cher. And I remember the first show. Maureen, the first show was in an outdoor summer thing. It was maybe 32,000 people. People were in trees, way in a distance. And I'm like, I was just performing at Catch a Rising Star comedy clubs. And then they went, ladies and gentlemen, and she was 2 hours late. She doesn't fly. She takes her bus, 2 big buses with her people and backup singing. And I was like, oh no, they're all getting antsy. You know how it is. And then next thing you know, they went, ladies, she came. Please welcome comedian Bobby Collins. I never heard more boos in my life. I almost shit my pants.
Oh, it's the worst.
I went out there. And they were still booing. Even the people in the trees, they were moving, get him off. And I looked at him and I said, I have to be out here for a half an hour. We can either enjoy it together or not. After about 6 minutes, I got him. And it was those 6 minutes. And then when I left, the sweat from under my arms went down to the sides of my underwear. That's how wet it was. And then the next night, we were in Jones Beach, which I felt very comfortable. Jones Beach.
New York.
But that's how it started. True story.
All right. So how old are you, or how long have you been in comedy when you get asked to open for Cher and Frank Sinatra?
I was doing it maybe 5, 6 years.
That's pretty newbie to be going up in front of
Oh,
Cher.
yeah. I remember I had about a half an hour, 35 minutes worth of material. But you're used to doing comedy clubs like you and I started. But and then I went over to Sinatra, and that was another trip. You know, they go, Bobby, some guy who opens for him out here in California, he got sick. Bobby, can you get over? Because we had 3 weeks off. Can you run over? We're going to fly you over to Salt Lake City. I was like, I've never been in Salt Lake City. Comedy club there. I don't know this. And they go, would you open for Frank Sinatra? New York. How much? Okay. They fly me out. This big guy, Jilly, his main guy.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Massive guy. He goes, all right, don't call him Frank. His name is Mr. Sinatra. Don't speak to him until he speaks to you. And my wife's Italian, so she loves Frank Sinatra. I'm going, okay. They take me into the room. There's about a big table with about 12 guys. They're all named after parts of the body. Bobby, this is Tony the arm. This is the nail. I'm going, hi, Mr. Arm. Hi, Mr. Foot. I don't know. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this. I'm going, oh, God. The phone rang. They kept ringing. Hey, boss, it's that girl Susie. She was a stripper in Hoboken. Give her 2 tickets. Okay, she got 2 tickets. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, he picked up the phone. It rang. They all stopped. I guess he never picks up the phone. I hear the person on the phone go, can we have the substar come down? Can we have the substar come down for a sound check? He goes, he's a fucking comedian. Just put the power on. And he hangs up. And he looks at me, he goes, you okay with that? No problem. I'm good.
I don't need a sound check. I don't need anything, nothing. So people are loving this. Bobby, love you, miss you. Oh my God, saw you. Oh, that's great. I love it. Yes, do watch parties, share, let people know. Head over, also join the Hanging with Langan group page on Facebook here. So I've got to know, what was it like to work with Cher? I hear that I don't want to say anything. I've heard very good things about how she treats people, but I wonder what your experience was.
She was, to me, wonderful. She's I know secrets, but I can't tell.
Oh, come on, one little baby secret, a baby secret.
All right, we were in Halifax, Canada.
Yes.
We had a night off, one show, and then the next night, 2 nights later, another show, and they were all sold out. And we had a night off. It was raining. It was this. It was, we're in the hotel. I hear banging at my door. I go, what? It's Cher. Bobby, we're going to the movies. Get dressed. I don't want to go. Go, you're coming. Get your fucking ass. Okay. I get dressed. We go to the movies. There's only about 8 of us. Nobody's in the movie theater. She gives the guy $2,000 cash. And I looked at her, I go, I'm from New York. I could have got us all in for about $12. Are you kidding me? That's what she was like.
Generous, huh?
And one thing I really liked about her, again, I have a special needs child. Before, she would always make sure who was ever in wheelchairs or special needs, they were brought up to the front in that one aisle that was open so they could see. And before the show, they always held hands. She had a thing and said a prayer that these people have come to see us.
I'm going to cry.
I know, it was.
Oh, that's beautiful. So she was pretty down to earth and.
Oh, yeah. She was a good lady. If you couldn't say anything about her daughter, I forgot her name.
Yeah, I know her. You know, because,
right.
Yeah, I know. Gosh.
You can't do that. She'd go nuts. It just kept everything. And she'd work out all the time. She'd work out every day.
Well, she had the bagel guy. She had that bagel boy that she was screwing. She had to stay. She was a young bagel guy. Remember him? The pizza guy, whatever. What was, oh God, her Cher's daughter's name. We all know what it is. I just went blank, but it's her son now. Forgive me, Chad. I don't want to be disrespectful. I say the wrong pronoun, then I get in trouble and I don't mean to. It's taken me, give me some time. It took them 30, 40 years to figure it out. Give me 5 minutes, 5 minutes to figure out the pronoun.
Me Too movement. You're Me Too. You too.
Us, all of us. But what do you mean she didn't want you to say anything like derogatory? Not that you would, or even bring up the child?
No, but if anyone, she didn't want it brought up. She didn't like the fact that there was, someone gay, and she just didn't like to talk about it.
Yeah. I understood that took her, well, that any parent, that must take a while to accept and understand. I mean, you have a vision of what your child will be like, or and you have a special needs child that it's
Blessed
different.
with.
But let's talk about your daughter, because you have two daughters. One you
Yeah.
call the pain in the ass, and the one you say that
One
you
of them
love
is
more.
the entitled one, and since I've been home, she goes online to these websites called Hump Me or something. I don't know, these websites where they meet boys. We never did that. We met people in bars, restaurants, clubs, out. They go online. They meet people, and they don't even go out with them, and then they break up and feel bad. I go, are you out of your mind?
It's so creepy, isn't it?
Oh, it's ridiculous.
I mean, because you don't know who you're getting on the other side of that if you don't know them. It's just so one-dimensional. You don't feel their energy. You have to be around somebody and go, oh, they gave me the creeps, or they have a nice positive, they're a gentleman. I don't know. So that's your younger daughter's name is?
Madison.
Madison. And so you're home with her a lot. And I know you do some tell me, you're involved in organizations.
We do a thing called Comics for a Cause. Every year for the last 17 years, I call up the guys, and no one has ever turned me down. Jay Leno, Chris Rock, Ray Romano, and I go, hey guys, we're doing this for the kids for my daughter's camp. Where and when? And they're just great at that. We did it once last year in New York, but we do it here in Hermosa Beach, California. And it's just a nice thing to help, because nobody pays. These kids, half of them live in closets, and to help them out and get the pay. And their parents are so grateful that they have a place to go.
In the
and of
summer,
course, this year it's canceled because of the pandemic.
Well, Bobby's daughter, has two daughters, but the youngest one, Madison, is in a wheelchair, and she has special needs, and he does a lot of good for the kids, like her friends and people like her who can go to a summer camp. How do people support that, or how do they find out more about that?
Oh, it's the name of the camp is Zeno, Zeno, Zeno Mountain Farm. It's in Vermont. Kids come from all around the country. When I was a little boy, my brother was the head of the camp, and every time I came to visit him in Massachusetts, where he lived, he would say, I remember one time we took it was in Martha's Vineyard. I was a little boy. My mother and father would take us over on a ferry. We'd get off the ferry, we'd get to the camp. I'm like, ooh. And next thing you know, my brother, grab that guy, Bobby. Not high, not a hug, grab that guy, put him on your back, give him a piggyback down to the river, follow everyone else down. The guy had cerebral palsy. He was moving around. I'm like, oh, I'm going to break this guy. I'm holding him on my back. I get down, somebody takes him. Here's the funny thing about it. We were looking for a camp for my daughter here in California, like 13, 15 years ago. And I told her about this camp, how special it was in Massachusetts. Now it's in Vermont, but it was in, and she said, we're going to take our daughter across the country to go to a camp for a month. I go, yes, you'll see. And we went out there, we got there, she looked around, she couldn't believe how wonderful it was. And then that same guy, who is now 60 something years old, was sitting on a porch, and he looked at me and he went, I know you. You're Tommy Collins' brother, Bobby. You gave me a piggyback ride. I had tears in my eyes. I looked at my wife and I'm saying, we're at the right place.
Oh, that's emotional. That's very emotional. Oh, that's a beautiful story. So now I get all verklempt. I'm going to keep you a few more minutes. And you guys, if you want to support the show, I have it down there, molangan@gmail.com, on PayPal, and Venmo at molangan. I'm so happy Bobby's with me. You got a few more minutes to hang with me? I have a couple more.
Sure. I look like a black guy. Look at me.
You're Black Irish.
A black.
You're dark Irish. Okay, so people will say, I want to know, who were some of the guys or gals that you came up with? Who were your peers in stand-up?
Well, I just started because I did a lot of these videos lately. I've been doing a bunch of these videos, and I did about 12 of them, and the response around the country has been tremendous. And silly ones, fun ones. And next thing you know, I got a call from a guy, and he said to me, hey, would you do a podcast? I went, no, and I said, I see comics trying to perform. You don't do that. We need an audience. I see comics. So where do you live? And where do you brought up? I like sitting like we are doing, like comics.
Well, I did ask you those questions.
Circus people, we're in the green room laughing and fucking around and having a good time.
Yeah.
So,
well, I did ask you these things because I like that. I like to know. I want people to know because
no, I don't mind. I don't mind. Maureen, it's you.
That's true.
So,
good point.
So I have a podcast, and I do it once a week, and I only did 3 of them already. And the funny thing is, you just asked me who are some. I've already George Wallace, the Lunatics. You know, the guys. When I remember taking dates, Maureen taking dates over to Catch a Rising Star. There was Freddie Prinze performing. There was Gabe Kaplan. There was David Brenner, and I would sit there, and after 2 or 3 comics, the girl would say, can we go? No, here's money. Take a cab. I'm watching. And I'd stay and watch. And then I started to perform there. Rick Newman liked me. And then I became an MC. And the guys Jerry Seinfeld, you know, all the guys.
Yeah, it's cool. How old were you when you first started? When was the first time you went up?
I think I was like 26 years old.
See, and he just mentioned Rick Newman, and for those of you who, you know, a lot of people are watching, you're a good man, Bobby. He's all right. No,
he's all right. He's nothing special. My wife thinks I'm an asshole.
Well, yeah, but we're not your wife. She has to put up with you. We only have to deal with you occasionally. Listen, I've worked with you a number of times, and you are a gentleman and a great guy. Rick Newman, who he just mentioned, he was the owner of Catch a Rising Star in New York City, and he's still around, really good guy, know him from the Friars Club. What advice, I mean, right now comedy's on hold, we get it, but what advice would you give to an up-and-coming comic? Somebody who's like, Bobby, I want to get in the business, I see you, you know, I want to do it. What would you say to them? I would tell them get a law degree and move on, but what would you tell them? I tell them to be a dentist. I tell them save their fucking self. Save yourself. I would tell them to get a tin can and a blind dog and sit on a street corner and wait for the light turn red and then get the money from the people in the car. That's what I would. The only technology you'll have to deal with is that the traffic light works. That's it. Go now, but you give your advice, please.
The biggest thing I would and I've ever told comics when they ask me, I'm saying, let people feel who you are up there, because anyone can go up and tell a joke or a story, but if you don't show yourself, they're not going to remember you. Let people feel as if they know you, and boy, will they come back to see you each time. The cream rises to the top. Shit floats for a while, then it sinks.
It's good advice. And those of you, I mean, people here, they said, hey, I saw you at Good Times. Jim says,
I saw. God.
That's the first comedy place I went to. Good Times.
Tell them I'm peeing right now. We got old.
Where was Good Times located again? Do you remember?
Yes, Good Times was on, if I'm correct, 28th Street and 3rd Avenue.
Yeah, oh God. Listen, you have been a gem. How can people, how do they follow you? Where's your podcast? What do you want them to know?
Bobby'sViralVideos.com. Bobby'sViralVideos.com. According to people that work with me, they tell them to go to Instagram, to have Facebook. It's all out there.
Tell me again. I want to put that down when I repost this too, because I put this up the second time. Bobby?
Bobby's?
Yeah.
Yes. Bobby'sViralFriends.com.
You have been a gem. I know we have to do this. Oh, I want people. You don't have to follow me, people. Just freaking donate so I can eat. No, I don't care. People, they're great. I just want to let people know, coming up in future shows the week after next, I have Kelly Carlin and daughter of George, but Kelly in her own right. And Lori Kilmartin, a writer for Conan. Great shows tomorrow. We're going to do some daytime drinking. I have a wine sommelier, whatever you say it, with Bernadette Pauly, Al Ducharme, my good friends. We're going to be doing some wit and some wine. You have been a gem, Bobby. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
You're the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, sweetheart. Mwah! Bobby Collins, everybody. And thank you guys for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow. And again, consider, I feel like such a whore. I wish I danced with poles while they still had the body to do so. But this is all I have to offer is my little commercial break. And Maureen Langan, it's ridiculous, it's humiliating. T-shirt saleswoman, don't make me hate you on my website. If you want to sponsor the show, email me or on Facebook. And a big thanks to Bitten by a Zebra, graphic artist, photographer, for supporting the show this week. And thank you guys just for tuning in. It's free, you know that. And we're here for you every day, 3 o'clock, trying to give you a little respite from the madness. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. Bobby, mwah!
Take care, darling.
Bye, you guys.
Bye-bye.